Hi, my name is Liam Mullen. I'm here with veteran horse racing commentator and presenter, Derek Thompson. Derek, thank you very much for joining me today.
Liam, it's a great honor. And I tell you, how's everything going? Are you studying hard? Are you working hard?
Working very hard anyway, that's for
I believe
sure.
you.
Let's dive into the very beginning. You're obviously very passionate about your sport, so let's talk about the sporting beginnings and what first got you into horse racing.
I tell you what, it was a long time ago, and I still remember it. There were three of us, my brother Howard, a young friend of mine, and three of us used to go to the races together, used to go to red car races. And this is a long time ago, before you were born, before your dad was born, probably before your granddad was born. And we were interviewed by a guy called John Rickman, who was then the presenter of ITV Racing. And we were standing nearby looking at him. And the jockey he was supposed to interview didn't turn up for an interview. So he said, he was alive at the time. With me now, three young guys. Let me just have a chat with them. It's a true story. This is when I was about 8 years old. And he said to me, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I said, I want to be a racing presenter on television, a commentator like you. Oh, he says, well, good luck and all that. And he said to my pal, what do you want to be when you grow up? And he said, I want to ride the winner of the Grand National. And he did, because my young pal was Bob Champion, who went on to ride the 1981 Grand National winner, Aldeniti, after recovering from cancer. And the horse had recovered from sickness. And they made a film about it, a Hollywood film called Champions. And it's a true story about how a guy overcame cancer to win the world's greatest steeplechase. And so we were about 7, 8, 9 years old when he asked us that. And it's strange. You remember at Redcar, it wasn't Ascot, it wasn't Newmarket.
Mhm.
It was just, and then when I was about 15, I was in ponies, I was show jumping, I was pretty good at gymkhana and all that sort of stuff. And I was 15, and my dad used to commentate at the Cleveland Point to Point, which is in Great Ayton, North Yorkshire. And Great Ayton is famous. It's only a small village, but
Mhm.
it's where a certain James Cook came from, Captain Cook. And he's the man who discovered half the world, Australia, New Zealand, Hawaii, all that, all those years ago before they had boats, motors with boats. So he did sail. And so that was it. And when I was doing commentary on the point of, my father was doing commentary. Halfway around, he said, I can't see him anymore, and hand him in the mic. And I was 15 years of age, and that's when I started. But I love it. Your dad, champion jockey of Dubai, former champion. You've got to love it to do it because it wasn't easy at the start. You didn't get paid and all that, and you had to work your way up, and it was just lovely. So I was very lucky. So I was 15 when I did my first. Can I continue telling the story?
Absolutely, go for it.
Is that all right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and then I joined BBC local radio, worked for nothing, obviously, and local radio just started then. So I was covering Darlington Football Club, doing the local. I used to go to red car races, stand on the roof, and do commentary on local radio. Didn't get paid for it, but it was great. And I used to turn the sound down of the telly on a Saturday afternoon and do the commentary to practice. So I'd be good. And anyway, cut long story short, I became a racecourse commentator, just covering one meeting a month and what have you. And then a job came up at the BBC. I was 21 and said, "Do you want to apply for that?" So I did. And I got the job. And it was working in the BBC Broadcasting House in BBC Radio Sport, Radio 2. And, Sports Report, working with people like Desmond Lynham, Jim Rosenthal, Alan Parry and I both got the job at the same time. Ian Dark, Peter Jones, Brian Butler, people who are no longer with us, Nigel Starmer Smith. It was just incredible. And a year later, I commentated on the Grand National at the age of 22, and I became the youngest ever commentator on the Grand National with when Red Rum won his first Grand National, beat Crisp in the greatest race I think I've ever seen.
That's an amazing story, that. But I have to touch quickly about your amateur riding career. And a memory, I believe, at Plumpton in a charity race.
That is true. That is true. It was absolutely incredible. I can remember it like it was yesterday, although it was over 40 years ago. Um, I was trying to get a ride in this race, and I rode in it. It was sort of a celebrity race. I don't know how I got in, and I rode in it. And I was riding a horse for Nicky Henderson, the champion trainer. It was incredible. A friend of mine had a horse with him, hadn't run before. He said, Tommy, yeah, you can ride this horse in it. Yeah, of course, probably, useless or whatever. Anyway, rode it in a gallop. So I used to go and ride out Nicky Henderson's, drove from London every other day at 4 in the morning, got there at 6 and rode this horse. And it had been working very well. And I remember the day on the Sunday, Steve Smith Eccles and I rode in a gallop at Lambourn, and I beat him 20 lengths. And he came up to me afterwards and he said, "What the blinking heck are you doing?" I said, "Sorry, Steve, this was near champion jockey." He says, "No, I'm not having a go." He says, you've given me 2 stone and wiped me out." And he said, "This horse won a 3-mile chase at Newbury last week under top weight." Cool, blimey, what are you riding? And I said, "It's a horse called Classify." He said, "Bloody hell, Jay, this will win." And it did. And it was absolutely fantastic. And the guy who finished second, who you probably know, but I'll tell people, was a young guy called His Royal Highness Prince Charles. So that was the day I beat the future King of England. And we were joking about it. It wasn't too happy. He finished second.
Yeah.
But there was lots of people. I tell you who was in the race as well. Davy Jones of the Monkees, the late singer of the lead singer of the Monkees.
Okay.
He was a stable lad in Midland and became one of the most famous singers in the world. He was lead singer of the Monkees. It was just a day I'll never, ever forget. And I had to say thank you to Nicky Henderson for putting me up. And I borrowed his breeches, and they popped open at the start where they shouldn't pop open. And I was trying to close them when the starter said, "Okay, form a line, start." And the headline in the Times was the following day was "The Outsider Who Flashed Past the Prince." And it was good. So it was a great day. I don't think I'll ever become Lord Tomo, though, now after beating the future king.
Maybe not. That's an unbelievable memory, though.
It's incredible. Nobody else can say it. And
No,
it's true.
absolutely not.
You know what? I joke, because your dad, former champion jockey, and Tony McCoy, the champion jump jockey, former champion, came up to me a few weeks ago. And we were just talking about this. And I said to him, "What was your strike rate like, Tony, when riding for Nicky Henderson?" He said, "About 30%, which is brilliant by any standards."
Yeah, absolutely.
So I said, "Tomo, 100%, one ride, one winner." And he says, "Yeah, Tomo, have you ever wondered why I never asked you back for another ride?" That was good stuff. Good stuff.
Good stuff. Okay, so you went to BBC Radio. You left in 1981 and moved into ITV racing. How was that transition from radio to TV? Was that a challenge for you?
It was a real challenge. It was, you can't look down at notes and say, "Hello and welcome to Air Race Course," because you're on TV. You've got to remember hello and welcome and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. And you've got to remember stuff. It's the homework you do. You're at uni, you were at school, same as me, and you do your homework. And I still do it to this day. I'll try and find you a commentary sheet. I'll just try and find you one if I have one in my. Hang on, I just think I might of doing the commentaries and going. And this is what it's like. I think I've thrown. Oh, here it is. Now this was Here we go. Now this was the other day at. Just look at this. So this is how I do. This was a race. This was only a small race. This was at Fakenham the other day.
Okay.
So you see, I do the colours. I do the jockeys, the trainers, and I'll put, whether it's got cheek pieces or stuff like that. Is that the right way up, or is it upside down? Is it all right?
No, other way around. Yeah, well, you had it.
That's right. So there you go. Now, imagine doing that for, say, a 30-runner, 5-furlong handicap. So, and the reason I do this was a national hunt race, but say when I'm doing it for a flat race, so number one, you do it in draw order. So that's how you do it. So it's the homework. And to this day, as you can see, even at my ripe old age, I still do it like this. And I put the form underneath so I can remember this horse won last time out, or blah, blah, blah. Just something like that. So, yeah. So I was presenting the ITV7 in those days. A guy called Dickie Davis used to present it. He was the presenter in London, and he would hand over to me or Bruff Scott or Lord John Oaksey. And we did 4 races and 3 races from another meeting. So it was the ITV7. And they used to have a bet for 10p, and you could win thousands of pounds. And it was very popular. Millions watched it. And it was lovely. I remember it was, Bruff Scott, great guy. Lord Oaksey, one of the best guys I've ever met. Sadly, no longer with us, a great jockey as well. So it was wonderful, wonderful.
Yeah. And you touched on about just a race at Fakenham there, but what is it like being involved with such big meetings like Cheltenham Festival, Aintree, Grand National, that sort of thing? But alongside that, being involved with such big personalities to interview.
It's something that is quite incredible. I was born and brought up in Middlesbrough. Now, admittedly, I was a rider all my life, and I was a pretty good show jumper. And, I won a race as a jockey, so I could ride a bit. But I've always worked hard at it. I was never the brain of Britain at school. I got 6 O levels. That was it. And they weren't good grades. So I had to work hard at it. And Michael O'Hare, the great Irish commentator, who used to be before me in the Grand National, he was the guy at Beaches. We had 4 commentators, as they do in the Grand National. In those days, I had Peter Bromley, no longer with us, Peter Bromley at the grandstand, Michael Smith at the third, Michael O'Hare at Beaches, and then they'd hand it over to me at Derek Thompson Valentine's. And I'm the only one who's surviving. The rest have all gone. But Michael O'Hare always told me to go in the weighing room beforehand just to check that the colours that you've got in your race card are the same as the ones that the jockeys are wearing. And to this day, I still do it. I'm the only one who does it. And there are only 17 of us who do this in the UK. There are 17 of the commentators on the rota. And we all get allotted certain days. And I do that. I still present. And I love presenting because you ask me, the stars you can meet James Bond, you can meet Hollywood stars, you can meet whoever, the king, the sheikh, the Aga Khan. I'm so lucky the people I have been able, the first man on the moon, and it's just incredible. But you do it, and it's your job. You don't say, oh my God, with me now is so and so. With you got to treat them as with great respect. I remember the Queen coming up to me one day and she said, I know you. To me, what do you think I said to her? I know you as well.
Oh, but if I had to put you on the spot right now, a standout horse racing moment for you, what would that have to be?
Oh, there's a few. Red Rum winning.
Right,
73 Grand National. It was my first Grand National. And my heart was beating that fast I couldn't hold my binoculars. So 73 catching crisp. I felt sorry for Richard Pittman. Caught him on the line. Greatest commentary by Peter Bromley. Greatest race. And Red Rum went on to win 3 Grand Nationals. And by the way, it's the anniversary today. He died in 1995 on this day. And his body is buried at the winning post at Aintree. What a horse Red Rum was. There was a few others. And Frankel was just very, very special. Unbeaten 14 out of 14, and now doing probably even better as a stallion. I mean, that's incredible. Every horse by Frankel seems to win, and he was just a great horse, and it means a lot to me because I always remember when I was this is a few years ago. I used to live in Newmarket, and I would go on the gallops and watch Frankel. And I had a problem. I had cancer. And I always remember the surgeon at Cambridge Hospital saying to me, we found cancer. So we want you in on Tuesday and to have the operation. I said, I can't come in Tuesday. Frankel's running at Royal Ascot. And he gave me the look and said, what? And it was, anyway, he said, all right, come in a day later. And those days you could, and He saved me, but I had to see Frankel. And I used to watch him on the Gallops, and the late great Henry Cecil, his trainer, after I'd had cancer, I'd lost 3 or 4 stone. I looked a bit rough, as you can imagine. And I went on the Gallops, and Henry spotted me, and he said, "Come on, sit down," because I was struggling a bit. He said, "Come on, sit down. We'll watch Frankel canter pass." And we watched Can. And he wasn't an exuberant worker. You know, as you know, sometimes horses work well in the morning and they don't work great in the afternoon at the
Yeah,
races.
absolutely.
But Frankel was special. And I never forget the late great Henry Cecil, who himself died of cancer, sitting down talking to me about, how I can recover from cancer. And luckily I did. Sadly he didn't. But it was great. And also when my friend Bob Champion won on Aldenete in 1981. Imagine, what we were saying at the start.
Yeah.
Uh, I'll win the Grand National one day, and he said that when he was 9 years old, and he came back from cancer to do it. So, Aldenete, Red Rum, and Frankel. But I am lucky to go anywhere. I've been all over, and like your dad, in Dubai. Your dad's a great jockey. If anybody's not a Richie Mullen's superb. And what a great rider and horseman. And there's another guy called Frankie Dettori, who's pretty good as well. And in the year 2000, he won the Dubai Millennium World Cup
Yeah.
on Dubai Millennium by about 10 lengths. You couldn't make it up. And I was in the
Uh,
commentary box calling him home. You can't make things like that up. And sadly, Dubai Millennium no longer with us. He's buried at Sheikh Mohammed's farm just outside Newmarket. And, but his name lives on. And I've been lucky enough to see these horses, and I'm just a kid from Stockton, Middlesbrough, to see and call these horses and been all around the world and following racing. And it's lovely. But always remember when I go to the races, it's my office. I don't go there drinking champagne and stuff like that. It's work all the way,
yeah.
and I've been so lucky, and in commentating Dad's many winners as well. It's been wonderful. So I'm lucky to work in sport. I'm paid to go to a sporting event. Other people have to pay to get in, and we are so lucky we are paid to do something we love.
Absolutely. Tomo, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much for chatting to me today.